We begin with the results of Tuesday's primary, the first election held under Florida's new congressional map. It produced at least one genuine upset, one of the toughest races of Congresswoman Kathy Castor's career, and a toss-up right here in Pinellas County. Mitch, we begin with Angie Nixon. She was outraised money by Alexander Vindman, almost 27-1, and yet money did not decide this race.
No, you could say people power, just a better candidate, essentially. Alexander Vindman ran a very weird race. He didn't really engage with people too much. He raised a lot of money, and that was kind of the thing that seemed to make him the more serious candidate in November. But I will say this, you're hearing a lot of people say, oh, they defied the polls. There wasn't really any polls taken in this race. Most pollsters didn't want to spend the money up because they assumed somehow that Vindman was going to beat Nixon. And so I was telling people in the last couple of weeks, I think maybe Vindman's going to, I don't really know. And so, but the perception certainly was there, right? That this progressive activist, Angie Nixon, who raised not even $1 million, was somehow couldn't be competitive. But in terms of anecdotal information you saw from people who were almost offended by Vindman's, he didn't want to debate her, right? His wife engaged in social media with a cutting crack about Angie Nixon. And in fact, what is surprising though was that she won by 12 points, okay? It wasn't even close.
Right.
Yeah, and to Mitch's point, there was no polling. The money advantage was totally overblown because the candidate with the money wasn't spending it. He had $6 million still in the bank. So I think a big question is what happens to that money? Is it going to go to Angie Nixon? Where does it go? But
did Nixon strike a chord with a group of voters that the others did not?
I absolutely think she did. It seems to me like instead of focusing on Trump, she focused on what people are most concerned about right now, which is pocketbook issues. You can't walk into a restaurant or into a group gathering without someone talking about affordability. That is like the topic, I believe, that and data centers. She focused on that, about health care, free education, raising the minimum wage. I think she struck a chord with our wallets.
And she's a Florida native. I mean, she's a Jacksonville representative with a huge base. She knows that city. She knows her issues. If you ever talk to her about the nuts and bolts of the Florida legislature, she'll talk your ear off. So she was opposing this candidate who was relatively new to Florida. So I think it was hard for him to shake off that carpetbagger, you know.
But they didn't really work for it, though. I think on another level, it's simply a matter of who wanted it more, who worked for it harder. As Mike says, he had $6 million left in the bank because I talked to one of his people a few weeks before, the election, the primary, and it's like they were talking to me about, this is a late primary relative in the season, right? There's only less than 11 weeks to go now before the general election. So all eyes for them went on Ashley Moody, and that was most of their targeting and their campaigning. They never engaged Nixon at all.